All right, guys, I got my coffee, I got my questions. Let's do this. Okay, so on Monday, I posted that I was going to do a Q&A. You guys have left your questions, and now I am going to answer them. I'm starting with my first question I got on Instagram. I just figure I'd do the one I got over there and then do the ones from YouTube. So, just getting right into this. What made you want to start making YouTube videos? We went vegan, and I wanted a platform to talk about it because it was a huge issue that I had not known about, and then I found out about it, and I wanted more people to be able to know about it. So initially my videos on YouTube were more vegan focused. Eventually I realized I didn't want to be that vegan that was like lashing out at people. Not to say I don't still have little moments like that where I kind of get a little passionate about things on my videos, but I kind of switched over to just showing you my life so that you guys can see hey, here's a vegan, and they just eat regular food, and they do regular things, and they're a regular family, but they happen to not eat animal products or buy things tested on animals and blah, 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 that vegans don't do. So that's why I wanted to do YouTube, was to just show our life and to tell people about veganism. Like I said, I don't really focus on telling facts about veganism because I figure there's already plenty of people doing that. I don't really need to do it. But that is why I started making YouTube videos, and now, as you guys know, I also talk about minimalism and many other things. But yeah, that was why it started. As a follow-up to that, they asked, how has it impacted on your life now that you have, like now that I have made YouTube videos? I feel like I don't know quite how to answer that. I feel like, number one, given me an appreciation for those that make YouTube videos, because I see some of the work that goes into it. Like, I don't even do to my videos what some people do, so like I know I don't get the full extent, but even just doing a basic edit on a video takes a lot of time, and recording takes a lot of time, and you know, just doing everything you have to do for YouTube, it takes a lot of time. So it definitely gave me an appreciation for those that do YouTube. It's impacted me by the fact that I record so many more moments of my life. I feel like I get to remember so much more because of that. I feel like it's made me grow as a person in ways, like just because I've like worked through things and talked through things with you guys that maybe I would have not really talked about otherwise. So I feel like in a lot of ways it's impacted me in a good way. I feel like it's also been kind of hard because occasionally, very, very rarely even on my channel, there's something negative and then that impacts me not in such a great way. But most of the time it's positive, and I feel like you guys have really uplifted me, you the subscribers, because I feel like when I'm having a hard time, you guys are all like very sweet and kind, and you give me ideas when I'm trying to figure things out, and I really like interacting with you guys, so you guys are kind of the big impact for me. Okay, moving on to YouTube questions. I thought this one was cool because the person who sent it is from Brazil, and it always kind of blows my mind that people all over the world see my videos. I mean, it's mostly in America based on the statistics I can see, but still, there's people from tons and tons of countries who have at least watched one of my videos, and that's just like crazy to me. But anyway, on to the question. What has been the hardest part about going vegan? The hardest part for me is just the fact that we live in a very non-vegan world, and once you know of the suffering going on, it's hard to see it happening all around us, especially with our family members. That's the very hardest part, is seeing our family members eating animal products, both because of the animal suffering and knowing of all the terrible side effects of a typical diet, just because things like heart disease and cancer and many other things are far more likely to occur when you do eat animal products. And that's hard when you're watching, you know, your parents whom you love and you've had your whole life, and you're thinking, are you going to end up having a heart attack at a younger age than you would if you would just eat plants instead? So that is really hard for me. Like, I've literally cried many times because I look at my parents and I'm like, I don't want them to die anytime soon. Like, I know it will happen someday, but I don't want it to be soon. Or a couple of my siblings who aren't vegan, it's hard for me to look at them and I'm like, I care about them. They're my siblings. Like, and I feel like they don't get it because people who aren't vegan don't believe that it's unhealthy for the most part. So, like, that eating animal products is unhealthy because you're told your whole life that it is. But anyways, I don't want to get into all that. But that's the hardest thing, is watching family not understand the impact for their health, the animals, and, like, globally, the whole world. Like, the planet is suffering because of the mass overeating of animal products. But, so that's the hardest part. All of that in a nutshell. I'm trying to not talk for hours on end on each question, but that's the hardest. And then she also asked what the easiest part is. And I had to think about that because I feel like it's a little harder to answer that question. But I think for me, the easiest part about being vegan was having our why we were being vegan. And that for us is mainly the animals. When we saw what was happening in the farming practices in America and all over the world, and like with animal testing and those that make leather and wool and just all the things that animals are impacted by. We saw that, and it was like we could not be a part of that. So that's what was easiest, was finding our why, the animals. We didn't want to pay for their suffering. We did not want to take part in their suffering as much as possible. Obviously, certain things are completely unavoidable because we live in a non-vegan world, but as much as possible, we avoid harming animals. So finding our why, that was the easiest. I mean, we also are concerned with health, and we are concerned with the Earth's health because it is not good. So we have our why, and that was the easiest for us, was knowing why we were doing it. And that's why when I see animal products, it is not hard for me to say no to them. It is never hard for me to say, oh, no, thanks, I don't want a steak. Like, because it's just, I don't. Like, literally, people talk about eating animal products, and I want to throw up, because I'm like, I so do not want to eat someone else's body. That's just gross to me. And I don't mean this in a rude way, but somebody asked what was the easiest. I was just trying to answer that question. So, moving on. Someone asked, do we have any future plans of moving to a bigger or smaller place? I feel like this is a little bit of a tricky question because currently we are staying where we are for financial reasons. It's just easiest on us right now to be here. But after being here for about 6 months, I feel like I miss having the second bedroom. It was nice having a space that was specifically for Aaliyah. That said, do I need more square footage? Not really. If we found a 2-bedroom that was the same square footage we had, I think I would be fine with that. Like, I don't need bigger space necessarily, just maybe a different space if we were to move. And I do think when we move, unless we can't afford it, we will probably move back into a 2-bedroom, but that might not be for a really long time. And then future plans, once we don't have our child living with us anymore, when it is just Ryan and I again, I could definitely see us living in even a smaller place than we are currently in. So it just depends on how far in the future you were talking about. But for now, our current plan is to stay here as long as we can make this house work, or until we are in a different financial state to where we could afford a maybe slightly bigger, slightly nicer apartment, just because there are some issues with this place, but that was not the question, so I'm not going to go into that. Okay, so this question. If you are vegan, then do you drink water? Because technically you would be ruining or killing their habitats. That's one of those questions vegans don't like hearing because they're just kind of sarcastic. But maybe it was a genuine question. I don't know. That said, obviously I drink water. Every living thing has to drink water. So yeah, we do. And that's definitely not what's ruining the habitats of animals. Trust me, that is not the big problem in the world. So yeah, I drink water. Let's just leave it at that. Okay, where did we find our daughter's name and how did we choose it? Okay, so when I was pregnant, we didn't find out if we were having a girl or boy. So we had names picked on either side. We had thought of Megan. We had thought of Aria. And then I remembered this little girl who she used to go to our church, and her name was Aaliyah, spelled with an A though, A-L-E-A-H. And I had really liked that name. I thought it was pretty. I liked that it kind of had nicknames going with it, because I really wanted a name that could have nicknames. And so we really liked that. I don't remember how we specifically ended up picking that, and then we picked Isabel as the middle name just because we liked how Aaliyah Isabel sounded. I guess there wasn't like a super big reason for that. And then shortly before she was born, someone jokingly said something about calling her Allie if it was a girl. And I was like, I don't want my daughter's nickname to be Allie, because that was just not what I was going for. We had thought Leah as the nickname. And then I was like, what if we switched it to an E? Because then the nickname would be Ellie, not Allie. And I actually really prefer the name with an E. I'm so glad we switched it to an E. Not that Aaliyah with an A is bad, but just for us, I preferred it. So we went with Aaliyah Isabel, as she calls herself, Isabel Maxie Aaliyah all the time. We don't know why she says her name that way, but she does. Anyways, so that's kind of how we picked her name, I guess. If it had been a boy, we were going to name him Oliver Levi, but we did not have a boy. We had a girl, which I was so happy about. So yeah, I guess that's how we picked her name. Like I said, we changed it right before she was born to Aaliyah with an E, E-L-E-A-H, which I feel like people have such a hard time spelling her name. To me, it seems easy, but I guess it is not the most common name. It's not even really a name because the actual name is spelled with an A. But anyways, that's kind of how we picked her name. I was really going to try to not be looking at my computer while I said things and try to look at you guys, but I'm having a hard time memorizing questions. Okay, so question is, you know what it is like to have siblings and your daughter won't. Are you okay with that? This is a question I could legitimately do a whole video on, and I've thought about doing a video on. And with any of these questions, if you guys want a more extensive answer, just leave it in the comments below, and I can do a video specifically on one question, because there's a few that I definitely could, for sure. This is a big struggle for me. And it was one of the harder things when deciding to not have more kids, because I have 5 siblings. If you guys don't know, I have 3 sisters and 2 brothers. I was in a big family. I know what that feels like, which there's pros and cons, but Aaliyah will never have that. And even Ryan, he has a brother and a sister, and I listen to how he talks about his childhood, and I hear myself talk about my own childhood, and I know the memories I have and the memories he has, and Aaliyah's not going to have that with siblings. And it kind of breaks my heart, because I love having siblings. I really do. Completely. As you can see, this is a hard topic for me. But when it came down to it, the best choice for our family was still to not have more kids. So that had to be the decision, and it was hard. But I also was not about to have another child just so she could have a sibling, because I feel like for us, that just would not have felt right. It would have been like, you're just the kid we had for her, because we didn't want another one, personally. So it's hard. I definitely worry about that, especially with the age she's at currently. She's asking now why, like, she wants a brother or a sister. She loves babies. She really wishes we had another kid. She's told me she wished mommy and daddy had another baby. And it breaks my heart every single time she says it, because it's not going to happen. And it is hard. And my hope is that we can raise her in a way that she is confident and happy with who she is and how her life is. And she can understand why mommy and daddy did not have more babies. And the good thing is she does have 4 cousins, and I've tried talking to her about that. Like, I know we don't have another kid in our house, but you do have cousins, and so it's kind of like having siblings, but different. So I'm hoping she grows up close to them, or that she ends up with, you know, that great lifetime best friend thing. I don't have that besides with my siblings, but I hope she will have a lifetime best friend at some point that will kind of be a fill-in for not having a sibling. I don't know if that's really answering the question. I'm getting too much into this one, but it is hard. I'm okay with it because I know why we are not having more kids, but I am sad for her that she will not experience siblings. I hope that as she grows older that she will be happy to be an only child, but we shall see what comes in the future with that. Keep forgetting about my coffee. Okay, I thought this one was funny because I wasn't even sure if you guys knew this or that I had mentioned it or not, but the question is, why don't you drive? Because if you guys don't know, I do not drive. This is another question I could do a whole video about, because there's a lot of reasons why. Mainly when I was younger, because in America you can get your driver's permit at 15, get your license at 16. I just didn't really need to drive when I was a teenager. I was homeschooled, and I did babysitting jobs as work, or I worked for my mom's cleaning company a little bit, and so I would just be driving with her, so I never needed to drive at first. Then as time went by, I didn't really want to drive. I mean, it's an added expense for one. Even now, it would be more expensive if I drove. I don't know how to put this without making me sound like a dummy, but I kind of have a hard time paying attention to my full surroundings. I can get pretty easily distracted sometimes. I have a little bit of a hard time taking everything in around me, especially with the anxiety I deal with. And I honestly feel like if I got my driver's license and if I drove a car, I would crash it. Not necessarily a deathly crash, but I'm pretty confident I would crash my car. And I know that sounds bad and people just say, oh, you're just letting your fears dictate your whole life. But it's like, if my gut feeling is that I should not be someone who drives, I'm going to stick with that as long as possible. If there comes a day when I have to drive, like it is non-optional, then I will learn to drive. I will try to be as aware as possible of my surroundings and drive as well and as carefully as I possibly can. But currently, I don't need to. Ryan's the one who works outside of the home, so he has the car. He doesn't mind running errands with me, and we just don't live a very busy life, so I don't really need to drive. So I don't need to, it's expensive, and I'm pretty certain I would crash if I drove. So that's why I don't drive. And it's kind of funny, actually, because Aaliyah gets a little confused sometimes because she says moms don't drive. Which I've told her so many times. Other moms do drive. Plenty of women drive. Mommy just chooses not to. I don't want to. But it is funny because she said that one time. Anyway, are you going to send Aaliyah to school or homeschool? Again, hard question to answer in a short nutshell. That is a good question. We have discussed it a lot. Currently, she's only 3.5, so we don't have to worry about it for a little bit longer. She definitely will not be going to preschool. But as far as when kindergarten starts, I would like to homeschool if possible. We'll have to see where we're at when that time comes. I would like to homeschool her whole life if possible. I love the idea of being her teacher and helping her. I'm not a huge fan of the school system. I think there's benefits and like pros and cons to either homeschooling or going to school. I did both. And for me, the main thing will be if she is thriving in homeschool or she is not. If she is having a hard time, if I'm not able to teach her as well as she needs to be taught, then we will put her in school, because her education is important to me and I do not want to set her back in life just because I want to homeschool. So it will depend on how she's doing. It will depend on what she wants to do. If she has a large desire to go to school, we are not going to be like, no, you have to stay home. But the current plan for me, at least at this time, as long as nothing changes, is I would at least like to try homeschooling her for kindergarten and see how that goes. If that goes well, then we can carry on for first, second, third. And as long as it is going well and she is learning everything she needs to learn and she is enjoying it and she is happy and we are happy and it is going well, we will homeschool. But like I said, if it is not going well, if she is not learning at the level that she should, if I'm not able to teach her as well as I need to, then we would pick a school and let her go to school. There's definitely, like I said, pros and cons to either, but currently, if I can have things my way and do things as well as I would like to homeschool her. How do you discipline? Okay, when I read this question, I had to think about it, because I don't feel like we do in a way. Like, we don't have a very specific, this is how we discipline. These are the rules, you have to follow them. It's not like that. We talk to Aaliyah. We talk to her all the time about what is okay and what is not okay, what is kind, what is not kind, what we expect, what is not okay for her to be doing. And we try to very much respect the fact that she is a child and we don't expect her to be perfect all the time. We try to be patient with her as she's learning and growing and figuring things out. Some days she has a hard time and it's not like, oh, you're just a bad kid today and you need to be punished. Like, for us, it's not like that. So I guess the way we discipline is by talking to our child. We talk to her constantly about things and she's learning constantly and she's talking back with us and talking about things she thinks is kind or is not kind or is okay or isn't okay. And I think that's basically how we discipline. Like, I do use the 1, 2, 3 thing. Sometimes if she is having a hard time focusing, I will say, Aaliyah, 1, 2, and 3. And usually she comes right to me. She knows when mommy counts, she cannot keep not listening. Like, she's really good about it. And as far as like punishments on the discipline side, she doesn't have a lot of them because it's just not really necessary. She listens. Like I said, because we talk to her so much, we just don't have to do those kinds of things, at least currently not so much. A few times she has had to do a timeout when she is just straight up like screaming her head off, will not listen. We cannot calm her down. We say, you need to have some time to calm down for a minute and then we will talk again. And so we've had to do that just a couple of times. Occasionally I do take something away from her if she's refusing to listen or if it's very specific to the thing she's doing that she's not supposed to be doing. Like one time I told her very specifically, you do not get to have any more cookies, and she snuck in the kitchen and she got more cookies, and so she had treats taken away for like 2 days or something, and she's never done that again. So for us that worked. And I'm not trying to tell anyone how to discipline their kids or punish their kids or whatever you want to call it. Like, that's just kind of how we do things. And we do have it easier because we have an only child. I think if we had 2 kids, we'd have to have a more specific like plan laid out. But like I said, we just talk to our kid. We talk to her when she's having a hard time. We talk to her when she's not listening, and we try to be patient. Like, I'm not always the best at it. I definitely have yelled at her, and I then apologize to her because I think it is very much a two-way street. Mommy needs to be acting kindly just as much as she needs to be acting kindly. And we both have bad days, and we talk about that, how it's okay to feel frustrated or upset or whatever. Anyways, again, this is something I could talk about too long. So I'm going to leave it at that. If you have further questions, you can leave them down below. As Aaliyah gets older, are you and Ryan still on the same page with one kid? Or kiddo, as she said. As in, are we still in agreement on only having an only child? And yes, we are both still in agreement. The plan is not changing. I feel like I do have moments, mostly when Aaliyah's like, I wish we had more kids in our family. And then I feel bad and I kind of wish we'd had a second. But in reality, in the light of day, when my head is clear and I'm not just feeling emotional, I know we made the right choice. For our family, we made the right choice. For our marriage, we made the right choice. And that was the biggest point, was keeping our marriage healthy. And I felt like adding another kid would have put just too much strain on our marriage. And if it had happened, I'm sure we would have handled it and figured it out. But when it was the choice to have another one or to not, it was the better choice for us. So Ryan and I are definitely still on the same page, especially with just all the things we want to do and the things we believe in and the things that we feel are best in our life and for us. We are on the same page and we are sticking to it and we are fine with it. And lastly, the final question, what kind of birth control do I use? Okay, I don't really, because a year and a half ago, Ryan had a vasectomy, so we don't have to use birth control. It is a permanent decision. I haven't talked about this on the channel before, but it is permanent. We are definitely not having more kids. I feel like occasionally I still get really paranoid that I'm going to be that one person who gets pregnant after a vasectomy, but it hasn't happened. it most likely will never happen because that's a pretty stinking permanent birth control method, which I'm happy about. We decided to because I didn't do well on birth control. I went on it a couple times earlier on in our marriage and then right after I had Aaliyah, and my body just did not react well to it. I was a very angry person when I was on birth control. I don't know why, but my body did not react well to it, so we used other methods, and I didn't like those methods either, and so when we were sure we didn't want another kid, we just went for the vasectomy, and I'm really glad we did. I think it was the right choice for us. I know other people aren't comfortable with making that permanent decision, especially at a young age, or when they think they might change their mind, but we were both very confident we were not changing our minds. We had our reasons why we were not having another kid, and so we made it permanent, and so that's what we do for birth control, I guess, is we don't have to worry about it because it's just a done deal. So there you go. That's my Q&A for you. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much for sending in questions, and thank you again for all over 500 of you now who have subscribed. I think I'm at 506 now, so I was happy my numbers didn't go back down before I did the Q&A. But yes, thank you guys all so much for subscribing and being here with me and all your comments and likes and everything, and for sending in your questions again. I was really excited to do this. You guys sent in fun questions, so I hope you enjoyed this. Again, if you want me to elaborate more on any of these questions, leave it down below and I could do a specific video talking about it in more detail. Or if you have more questions, you can leave them below and I will just answer them. I probably won't do another Q&A anytime soon. Maybe when I get to 700 or 1,000 subscribers, if that ever happens, but that's not even really my goal here. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll be back soon with more.